we are.
Good morning and welcome to AM News Network presents the Morning Report with Rachel Baird and Chris Janko. This is Chris Janko Thursday. Thanks for joining us again.
That sounds so weird, Chris Janko Thursday. I don't even think my wife has ever even gave me an introduction like that. You know, it's Chris Janko Saturday or something. I don't know. We're gonna have that at the house there, I think.
But usually Ed Peruta's here for the Morning Report.
Yeah,
We're here
we
every
miss Ed.
Monday
We
through
miss Ed.
Thursday from 7 to 7:30.
Yeah.
But Chris, you give him a well-needed break, and we're all very thankful for that.
Yeah. I enjoy coming in and talking about the current events and stuff like that. I mean, it'd be nice to talk about more positive things. It'd be nice actually someday when we don't even have to have commentary or political shows where you have to talk so negatively about issues around the country and around our state of Connecticut, our great state of Connecticut. I shouldn't say it's actually great state of Connecticut because it is a beautiful state. I'll tell you, I go out, my wife and I go out and we do some kayaking and stuff, and it's really amazing to think about how a state like Connecticut that has been around for, in the populated for literally, right. I guess we could call it thousands of years by Native Americans and everything, and now...
Well, the Earth has been here supposedly for, I think, 4.5 billion years. And it started out as one big mass called, I think Pangea. So Connecticut's probably always been here in some sort of form.
Yes.
But I think what you mean is since probably the beginning of the United States, maybe.
Well, the point that I was trying to make is that if you go down south, a lot of people down south view the East Coast as like a big concrete sidewalk.
They do.
And they don't think of like parts of New York, like New York. They think of every part of New York as like New York City. And when I was living down in Oklahoma, people would say, "Hey, Chris, well, have you ever been to New York?" I says, "Yeah, New York is a beautiful state." "Oh, yeah, it's too many people there." And I says, "Well, what's your perception of New York?" And they think that it's like every section of New York is like New York City. And I have told people down in Oklahoma, good friends of mine when I was living down there, that if we were to drop you off in a part of New York, you probably wouldn't find your way out of the woods, and they can't even fathom that.
Oh, well,
it's the most amazing thing.
With Google Earth, I think people should be able to fathom most anything
You'd be
like
surprised.
that now.
You'd be surprised. A lot of people think of Connecticut. One of the things I'd always say is they would ask me where I'm from, and I'd say Connecticut. And, where's Connecticut? It's a little island off the coast of South America. And I kid you not, there would be people. Just goes to show you how versed people are with geography and everything. Anyway.
Have you been following the healthcare bill situation?
Yeah, and I'm to the point now where I want to say we should actually just clean house, and that was one of the points of topic that I wanted to get on today was...
somehow I knew that. You didn't tell me that, but somehow I guessed it.
It befuddles me how... and I apologize if I don't use proper... grammar or wording, because I'll tell you, sometimes I get so flustered that words just pop out of my... I'm not going to try to use any... usually try not to use any profanity or anything like that, even though I have those profane words flashing across my head like a LED sign there, But I think where we're going to go with this is... I've gotten to the point where I'm more upset with Republicans now than I am with Democrats, because at least with a Democrat, you know what color they're painted, and with the Republicans now, I think we really have to have, and I'm gonna do something naughty, but the kick a Republican in the crotch campaign. We have to have that. I know you don't like to hear that, but it's gotten to the point where these Republicans have overstayed their terms. I think they need to be cleaned out. There are some good people in office, but I'll tell you something right now. It's gotten to the point where these people are not doing... We've got a president that's trying to get things done. We've got a health care bill that hasn't been repealed. We said we were going to repeal that. We've got a wall that's getting, you know, all kinds of problems as far as like moving forward with. Everybody calls it a wall, a secure border. I think that's the thing that the Trump administration needs to start doing is campaigning on not just their promises, but a little bit better terminology. And if I'm you know the not the sharpest knife in the drawer, could figure out a better terminology for a campaign, then I think people of the magnitude that work for him could definitely think, and it shouldn't be called a wall. Let's call it a more secure border, a secure border, and I think what happens now is.
I mean, I guess wall is a metaphor for a secure border. Do we really mean a wall? I think when he campaigned, he set it out because he wanted to be concrete.
Yeah, and I think what happens is you get a feeling the news media is putting a position out there that we're trying to block ourselves in. They're trying to give it more of an institutional sound, and I think when you do that, it gives it a negative connotation there. And I think we need to start moving in a positive direction. And eventually, if we could start, giving this guy the ability, and not just him. He's got good people behind him. I mean, his daughter is doing amazing things, I believe. His son-in-law is doing amazing. But what's happening is the liberal people out there are I shouldn't say, the Democrats out there are putting up these hurdles that the administration has to keep going underneath. You can't even jump over them. You have to go underneath them. And I don't understand why we keep going back at this Russian thing. The Russian, it's getting to the point where it's starting to sound real ridiculous. We had Bill Clinton meeting on a tarmac with the former AG about the campaign. Why hasn't anybody talked about that?
Well, it comes up, just not in the mainstream media. And Donald Trump is a negotiator. And I know the Supreme Court came out with what was, in at least the article that I read, called a terse opinion about the travel ban. And it upheld it to a large extent, except with the exception of relatives, people who have relatives already in the United States, etc. So in his campaign and in his approach to things, Donald Trump always goes for, the long ball, the touchdown from the other side's 20-yard line or your side's 20-yard line, whichever 20-yard line is furthest away from where you need to make the touchdown. He always goes for that, and he lands somewhere not at the point he was aiming for, but somewhere in between, and he's gaining ground incrementally. And the other side likes to think, oh, just because he didn't get that touchdown, he's failing. But you know what? He always knew he wasn't going to get the touchdown, but you go for it anyway, knowing you're going to land somewhere between where you are now and where you want to be. And I have faith that as a businessman, that's something he's used all his life, and he's continuing to use it. But in politics, they try to portray everything as black and white, and in business, hardly anything's black and white.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's very discouraging though when you have Republicans that were saying that they wanted to do this. And then when they're given the opportunity, they fall back and they don't. Like repealing Obamacare, in my opinion, should have been like top of the charts there as far as getting that done. I just can't understand how we keep dwelling on this Russian collusion and everything, and they're just pulling everything out of the stops. He went to a dinner there for the. Is it the G-Pack or whatever, and he's walking around talking to people, and they're saying that he's going over and talking to. I mean, it's gotten so just I get so frustrated, and the thing that I didn't like about the George W. Administration was that again the Democrats would come out and they would they would sling the proverbial crap at the fan, and they would see where and the Bush administration, actually both Bush administrations, sat there and did nothing. They were, I believe that because of George W. Bush, Junior there, this was the reason why we had the Barack Obama administration. He did, and the Republicans also. They sat there. They sat on their hands. It was almost like the three monkey thing where you see the monkeys, and I use these kind of little metaphors, but it gets to the point where you say to yourself, when is it that you keep getting kicked in the ankle, and you don't voice your opinion? And I think that's one of the biggest reasons why Barack Obama, because nobody knows anything about. We've got minorities in these cities that are being look at Chicago. Chicago used to be what
a weekend it was in Chicago.
I mean, you hear stuff nowadays. If you hear 60 people got shot or something, it's almost like, oh, okay.
Well, if it's in Chicago, yeah, nobody seems to pay attention.
It's like, oh, that's all? That's 60 people or whatever? Yeah, but 8 died or whatever. Well, that must have been like one of those weekends where there was a holiday or something. So
where's the outrage about that? I mean, we've been talking about that on the show since the election, inviting Barack Obama to actually make a contribution, go back to the community where he came from, the community that he knows, and do some good there and attempt to stop the killing.
I mean, that was like one of the most, second to New York, probably. I mean, at one point, Chicago was one of the most industrious cities in the nation. You could go there. You could prosper as an individual. You could prosper as a business person. Now, if you go online, you can actually, I believe, buy whole blocks of Chicago for, like, basically pennies on the dollar. But there's a reason why nobody wants to invest in Chicago, because you've got somebody like Rahm Emanuel there who, in my opinion, I don't believe he won an election fairly, because if we look at Chicago, it's a political machine, and Chicago puts people in office who they want to put in office. So it's not like you run for in an election and it's a fair election. It's whoever they want to put in office, because there hasn't been a Republican elected into Chicago in probably 100 years. Who knows? But how is it that people in Chicago want to just go for the same old? I can't believe that.
Well, speaking of that, I don't know how connected you are to Waterbury, but an article in the newspaper a couple days ago said that former Mayor Santopietro is considering a run again in Waterbury. And the thing that makes me wonder about that is, and I know he was convicted of something and did some time in jail. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. It didn't get overturned or anything, right? Okay, I don't want to defame somebody if it got overturned. But and
you should be most concerned about
I should be most concerned about that.
We have a call coming in.
Master Control got it. Okay, so let me finish my point. It always makes me wonder, for like 30 years after somebody was a famous singer or something, they come back. But aren't there new singers and new individuals on the horizon? Yes, there are. And in politics, the same thing. Why is it somebody like Santopietro comes back? Why is it the same old people keep resurfacing and coming back? Isn't there new blood on the horizon? Aren't there other people interested in this? And I think apparently not. Yeah. Because it's all a very, very closed system of insiders. And you don't get that especially in places like Chicago, you don't get that new blood in there. You don't have the opportunity.
Yeah, and I can't say that Waterbury's the political machine that Chicago is, but we got to realize that there's a lot of.
Call for Chrischenko.
All right, I don't know how to work this thing.
Me neither, and I've been here for 2 years. Let's try this.
Speaker? I think you just. Oh.
The morning report.
Is this the morning report with Chrischenko, the community activist?
Oh, I thought you were actually a real caller, Ed.
Oh, stop! Ed's more than a real caller.
Look.
Well, listen, I understand we're not going out on Facebook. I'm here in Rocky Hill, and I've got a blue screen for some reason, and I don't understand it, but I'll fix it this afternoon.
Uh-oh.
And I see the new typewriter sitting on the desk in back of us. We're going to have to find out the designer of that desk, the manufacturer, and see if he's got more of them.
Hey, Ed, so we're not going out on Facebook, huh?
No, we are not going out on Facebook.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what we could do is we could post this episode with Chris on Facebook later from Summary Judgment. That's what we'll do, and people won't be. Look how disappointed Chris is.
I know.
So is your audience.
I only come in just so I can watch myself up in the monitor up there. That's the only reason why I do this show.
He comes here to watch himself doing the show. You're Chris.
Well, I'm definitely watching you on Summary Judgment YouTube. And what I'll do is I'll take down the video and post it up on Facebook. At least they'll see what was said.
Exactly. We will do that.
Everybody's looking good this morning. But, you know, it says Chrischenko, community member, Harwinton, Connecticut. I think it needs to say community activist since I've been listening to him.
Yeah, the only thing, Ed, though, is I don't want to get whacked by some Antifada person, though. You know, I'll be going to get my morning coffee or something, and somebody come up to me and... you know, throw me a shot or something there, you know.
Chris,
then
you
guys will lose your. Yeah, I know. I'm gonna step up all right, and I'm gonna. You guys will be like coming in and doing a report and say, oh, well, he's not here anymore, and.
Well, like that one day you forgot to come. Remember that?
Well,
you thought it was a Wednesday, and you just didn't come.
My wife starts talking to me in the morning, and I go out and I feed the animals and everything. So I should actually let people see some of the critters we got roaming around our house. It's not like the cat and dog.
Take some cell phone video horizontally and bring it in, and we'll put your animals up. But speaking of animals, I have a black female bassador here that needs to be fed. So
okay,
all right,
you guys go, and I'll talk to you later.
Bye,
all right,
Ed.
take care, Ed.
You know, that bassador really doesn't need to be fed. She could go without a few meals, but I won't comment on that. She gets treated a little too well.
Not to get off topic,
exactly.
But the other day, my wife and I are outside, and we look up, and there's our new one of our new members of the family up on the barn roof.
I saw that on Facebook.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting, and I'm going, how the heck did that?
What kind of animal was it, though?
That's a goat. It's a goat, and it figured out how to scale up a few levels there and got up onto. And I'll tell you something right now. I had a hard time getting up on that roof to get her down, and she's just a little baby there. But anyway,
well,
I will bring.
Climb, right?
Oh, they can get up there.
We've all seen the movie Heidi, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, they can get around. But I will bring in some video just so people can see some of the and the alpacas and everything. So
you
they're
should start
fun.
A petting zoo.
Charge. Yeah. There you go.
We'll get that set up. We'll get that zoned in Harwinton. Okay, so back to the big picture, which I know you like to discuss. Ed and I kind of hone in sometimes on the little picture.
I was gonna say, getting back to like going into Waterbury, I know some police officers in Waterbury and everything, and I've seen some of the accidents because where I work, there is a very, very busy section there, and I've seen some of the accidents. And do you know that I've watched people wait for over an hour and a half to have a police officer come? Some of the police officers that I know in Waterbury say that if there's no injuries in an accident, you'll have to wait 2 hours. So you almost have to say, if you want a police officer and you get in an accident in Waterbury, and I'm not going to just throw this out to everybody, but you almost have to say, I was hurt in the accident. You will wait there. I've seen people exchange information, just drive off, because it gets to the point where after an hour and a half, how much longer can you wait? But there's reasons for that. And one of the reasons for that is Waterbury has problems. Waterbury has problems. Bridgeport has problems. New Haven has problems. A lot of these big cities have a lot of problems. And what the problems are is a lot of these big cities have Democratic mayors, obviously, for obvious reasons. And what happens is we talked about the sanctuary cities and stuff over the past few shows and everything. And I think what we're seeing now is there's a lot of expenditures going out to these people that come in, and the city has to take care of these people because, if you're going to be a sanctuary, so-called sanctuary city, and you're going to have people come to you as a sanctuary city, it's almost letting people in your house. I always say, follow the money, follow the money. If you have a house that's, say we've got a 2,000 square foot house, as the owner of that home, how many people you can entertain effectively. So if you have, say you could put 30, 35 people in that house and entertain effectively, have the flow of the party kind of move around, you have the same type of situation with a so-called sanctuary city, where once the amount of people that come into that city gets to a certain point,
your house gets wrecked.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you start to overextend. You start to have issues with school systems because obviously those kids have to go somewhere. You have teachers that are getting stressed. You have
you got to take care of your responsibilities before you take on more responsibilities, and that's something that the United States is having a real problem understanding now.
Yep.
A real problem. We have so many problems in this country, and we want to take on everybody else's problems.
Yep.
And thank goodness President Trump is the president, because he's fighting against it, but he's facing a real battle.
And something that we talked about last week, and you told me, you know what, Chris, break out the wallet if you want to do that, $50,000 to just start the effort. We talked about these sanctuary cities, and we talked about if someone gets hurt in one of these sanctuary cities, or God forbid gets killed by an illegal that comes in. Well, you as the mayor that creates the sanctuary city, aren't you as the individual that's created the sanctuary city negligent on the part of, you're supposed to be looking out for the citizens of your city, the citizens of the United States of America. And if you're saying that, no, anybody could come into my city, I don't care, I'm going to make it a sanctuary city, we're going to bring in illegal aliens, whatever, and then somebody gets killed by one of those illegal aliens or hurt by one, I think it should be that, and we were talking about this, and you said, well, Chris, if you want to bring up a suit like that, you have to start off with what? And I think to myself, why is it that a citizen that loses a family member, especially like car accidents, you hear about these individuals driving drunk and then they get in a car accident and kill a whole family or something. I think it's going to come down to the point where we're going to have to see a United States senator or a congressman's family get wrecked before something like this actually gets into the mainstream.
Certainly, I'm sure that's happened. I'm sure.
Well, I just don't understand it. I feel as though, at one point in this, we had a country that looked out for its citizens, and now I feel as though the citizens are taking the back rows of the bleachers, and we need to have it come back. And I think one of the reasons is because we do have people in the Senate and in Congress that, again, have overstayed their terms to the point where, you've got congressmen, they don't have to abide by securities laws. I never realized this, but a United States senator, if he is, finds out about insider trading or whatever, he could make investments on insider trading, and he is not beholden to the law of this.
There's some kind of exception for him. I did not know that.
Yeah, you should look into it. They don't have to follow the same laws that the. If you or I did that, we'd be going to jail tomorrow. but they can. How do you think all these guys and ladies go into office and they might be worth $500,000, $750,000? They come out many, many millions of dollars. And it's not because they're making $170 something thousand dollars. You know, they're doing, you know, stuff behind the, you know, they hear this and they'll move a little money this way. They don't have to worry about the same stuff that we have to worry about. But again, I think what we have to start doing is we have to start looking at Jane Doe and you know, John Doe, United States citizens, and we have to start saying, geez, you know what? These people are important. Let's take them from the back of the bleachers and give them the front row seats. And right now in our country, we're not doing it.
How can you have a city like Chicago and what's going on there and think that you have any capacity to handle people coming into this country who bring problems of their own? That would be like being, you know, a married couple and they want to adopt, and they go to their local social service agency, state agency, you know, Department of Children and Families, that's what we have here in Connecticut, and they say, we want to adopt. They come out and investigate your home first. And if your home is a wreck and you already have 10 kids and they're running amok and they're getting arrested and they need all these special services, guess what? They're not going to allow you to adopt another child.
It's funny that you say that because I know we're winding down here, but my wife and I were trying to adopt a cat from a pet shelter.
Oh,
and
please, that's even worse.
And I use this as an analogy. We went to the pet center or whatever, adoption center, and they called a veterinarian. And the girl at the veterinary office said that we allowed our cat to eat a poisonous flower. Well, the cat jumped on the table, ate a poisonous flower. Anyway, to make a long story short, the adoption center said, no, we can't let you adopt the cat because we learned from the veterinary center.
Wow.
And we brought the cat to the vet center and we just told what happened. And it wasn't like we fed the cat. But the point I'm trying to make is the adoption center said, no, you can't do it because you're not good kitty parents or whatever. So what I'm saying is that we've got a country here that feeds us it almost like we've got a country where it feeds us a poison, and I think we got to start having better.
We got to talk.
We got to have better parents, and when I say parents,
we do have to talk more about adopting pets in this country because it is not easy. It has grown into a real process.
And I know we're winding down, but how about kids? We've got families in this country that can't adopt kids. So they're going away. They're going to China and stuff.
Not so much anymore, I don't think. But
well, I mean, you're talking $30,000 to get a child adopted. I guess we're
okay.
We
can't start that whole new subject.
I know, but
everybody have a good Thursday and a good weekend. We'll see you back here next week, Chris, and join us for Summary Judgment this Saturday from 4 to 6 p.m. Have a good one.